What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 176. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him
E.
He's sitting here Sunday afternoon, once again defeated Austin, Texas, and not mathematically eliminated Austin, Texas, but for all intents and purposes, this shit is over. How you feeling?
Pretty terrible, man. Just ready to be put out of my misery. Like you said there, for all intents and purposes, it's over. Trying to accept that and understand that this season is going to be a failure and a disappointment. And that really fucking sucks. And for it to happen to Houston or against Houston and for them to come in here and get their first win against us and for us to have all those opportunities. I stained my new jersey that I had just got in the mail, ready for that game. Yeah. So throw that in there. Little what did we have last night? Torchies?
Yeah, we got a little Torchies on the way home.
Little Torchies Diablo sauce right there in the middle of it. So
perfect.
Add that.
That sauce is fucking orange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then I was in my bed eating Chex Mix, just staring at the ceiling. Once I got back from your place, I woke up and there's just fucking Chex Mix all over my bed. So things are going great, man. Doing awesome.
Oh yeah, well, can't wait to recap this one. But I think certainly a lengthy conversation about the recent run of form, the downturn, the new players, some things that we perceive as positives going forward, right, because of those new players. And then I think, again, the looming Josh Wolf question, which to me, and I know you said to me last night you thought that I've been more negative than you over the last couple of weeks, especially in terms of the head coach. It's when, not if, right?
I would say so. I'm on board with that as well. Something has to change. This was not how we anticipated this season ending up. This team had more than enough to be one of the top 9 teams in the Western Conference. And when you have a season like this and it goes the way it does, particularly with the goal stated by Roto that we had to make the playoffs, that's how you lose your job. And, it would probably be a relief for a lot of folks and hopefully something that we could move in a new direction with. And if Roto has a new guy that he wants to bring in and start his own regime here, I'm totally for it. This season has been a failure. I know that it's been a rebuild and that there's been a lot of things moving around and there's been things to latch onto in regard to positivity. But at the end of the day, you got to win games. That's what puts people in the seats. That's what gets people excited. And that's your job. So, I'm right there with you as well. It is when, not if.
And we will. I mean, we got the coaches fired live stream ready to go whenever that happens. If it does, and you want to come vent, celebrate, what have you, we will be there whenever that press release drops. And of course, we'll expand on that conversation here in a little bit after we recap the match. But before we jump into today's episode, just want to remind you, as we always do, that the best way to support the show, whether you're listening in audio form or watching on YouTube, the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio version of this episode wherever you get your podcasts. Helps us grow the show, supports us financially. And, if you want to support the show and not have to think about it further, go into your, Apple Podcasts, your Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, toggle on that auto downloads button. You can support the show going forward without having to think about it further. If you want to go the extra mile, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. That also helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Not a ton, really no news between when we last convened on Thursday after the draw against LAFC and the lineup dropping on Saturday. Of course, we got the injury report Friday evening. Little bit of hope there. Mikkel Dessler listed questionable, so we know came out with that ankle sprain in the midweek. Matt Hedges was, as expected, listed out. And then we get the lineup. First name you see in there, Mikkel Dessler. So that was for me, it was a boost. It's like, all right, here we go. We've got our starting right back in there. We don't have to get funky with these rotations. So, of course, he was in front of Stuver, and along that back line with Dessler, Cascante and Heinzike was the center back pairing. Guilherme Biru out there on the left. Alex Ring with the armband, Johan Valencia, John Gallagher, Sebastian Driussi, Osman Bukhari, and Giassi Zardes. The bench was Hodder Obrian, Leo Väisänen, Hector Jimenez, Diego Rubio, Stefan Cleveland, Danny Pereira, Owen Wolf, Alexander Svatak, and Ethan Finley. And it didn't take very long to see that this team was once again running out that 5-back when they were on defense, with Johnny bombing up and down that left sideline. So what were your thoughts on the lineup, the center back pairing, the formation we ended up seeing when they were out there? What were your feelings on the lineup?
I mean, first thing I see is Dessler's name, and I'm amped up about that because I said he was probably doubtful going into this matchup. And like you said, if he was not in that lineup and able to go, we would have had to get creative with what we were going to roll out there. So I was amped to see him, and I was feeling great. Like we've never dropped a point to this team at Q2 Stadium. We've never done it. And you see Dessler in there, obviously the new guys and all that good stuff. And we're talking about the underlying metrics going forward with this team and how play has looked improved as of late, but we're still not getting the results. I was feeling pretty confident. Then they get to the center back pairings. I just don't know why it's not Svatak. And I guess I just probably don't have enough insight as to what's going on there, because if you're just looking at it based on paper, very basic kind of information here, that's the starter for me. And then I was happy to have G up top there as well. And I liked how that looked to start the game. You get this early chance right away from him. And I guess now looking back on it, hindsight after a 1-0 kind of devastating, heartbreaking loss, you look at the formation, you can put some questions in there. I just don't know if Houston was the right team to have 5 backs. If this was if their style of play was what we should be in a 5-back for. So other than that, I thought that this was pretty standard. Joji obviously getting in there was a bit of an eye opener, but again, I'm going to assume something was up with Danny in regard to his fitness levels or how we're going to rotate him and all that stuff like that. So
that's what I would say, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt there who was picking the starting 11. Yeah. I guess that was my one complaint, is again, a game that we need to win. We need to continue to generate. And they still looked fine, to your point. You come out of the gates really with your hair on fire those first 15 minutes, but Johan Valencia just doesn't really add anything offensively. And of course, we've talked about that at length with you on my thought on Svatak not getting the start is it was hot yesterday. And you can see it on the replay too. Dudes are sweating from right off the rip. Yeah. So maybe after playing 90 on Wednesday, the physios didn't think he had 90 in him.
Was he not aware of how hot it gets down here?
What's that?
Was he not aware of how hot it gets down here before he signed?
I mean, there's one thing to know, and there's one thing to come here and experience it. So, again, I do think that should be our starter going forward, as long as he's physically able. And I don't have the 5-back. I'm fine with it. Again, I think they limited Houston has to score a fucking bicycle kick to get a goal here, right? Yeah. So it's not like we were just giving it up. Anyways, let's get into this one again. Like you hinted at, first minute, first possession, Austin just slices right through that Houston defense. Nice cross from Driussi here to the top of the box. Skips off the ground right to Alex Ring. He chests it down into the path of Giassi Zardes, who has a rip, but he doesn't really connect with it cleanly. Yeah. And it kind of just goes right to Steve Clark. But, I mean, we had just kind of sat down. We're 26 seconds in or something. And, us and all of our friends in 123 pointing right at Steve this is going to be a long night for you, buddy. And the opposite was true.
Yeah, I mean, this start to this game, not just this play here, you just see one of Austin's best punches. We really were out there, and like you said, this was a bit of a firestorm here where the team comes out and looks great. And, it's just a season of bad bounces and not being able to finish goals. And like a more talented striker probably puts that away. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some other chances coming up here.
Yep.
I think, again, I think a lot of people could put some of these chances away. 7th minute. Again, right here, I said Austin's all over Houston.
All over.
To start multiple corners, generating multiple high turnovers with this press.
A lot of high press.
Right here, Coco flops. Austin just pounces on it, turns and goes. Ring hits it out to Buka, and he puts it across the face of net. I'm not sure if this was a shot or a cross coming really from the right top corner of that penalty area. But Steve Clark spills it. Houston was able to clear it out for a corner. But again, it was shaky at the back there for Houston to start on that corner. Driussi gets his head to it, but he's about 5 feet to the right of the frame on that back post, and he just heads it straight. So I don't think he knew where he was. Because he directed that thing just completely straight, ton of power. But it looked like to me he thought he was inside that post, and he was far from it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened here, why he wasn't aware of where he was, because obviously the play is to put this back across net and see what happens there. But yeah, he just rips that thing right into the stanchion there.
And shortly after that, Driussi goes down, kind of takes a knee there, and play continues to the other side of the pitch. We're down a man. He comes off to the side for a moment, gets the trainers to look at him, ends up continuing. But I told you, Ryan, we talked to our buddy Shane at halftime about this, and like I don't like, and maybe this is a me problem, but I don't like that. My first thought when he does that is this man is quitting on us.
It was not my first thought, but to see the way that he was able to like continue through this game, it was curious.
He's
to say
fine,
the least.
Right?
He looks totally fine. It was curious. Obviously, on the replay, I'm watching it, trying to find any like what could have happened here, what went wrong, where he picks up some knock. And like one of those are usually easier to tell if you're out there, like actually on the field, and you can feel a little bit more of his body language and everything like that. But with everything that's been swirling around him and everything that's been going on with him, I don't think anyone can really feel like it was a 0% chance that he was kind of selling out here.
But how many times has he gone down like holy cow, like he did his knee there, he's Achilles or ankle or calf or him, like he goes down a lot and then continues on.
We were playing 10 men for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes of like full like real time play, and he's just down behind the field of play and everything, and like we see people warming up. So I was like, holy shit, like he is going to be coming out of this game, and if it's warranted or not, I can't obviously make that judgment call based on having zero, athletic training experience, but it was a questionable kind of situation to me at best.
And again, I'm not saying that he was doing that. That was just my thought. Yeah. And I feel weird that that's where I went, because I've never gone there. He's gone down like that so many times, because I was telling you, or more probably screaming at you when we were walking out of Q2, like if you're hurt, you call for the trainers.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He's just down there. He's tying his shoe. He's fixing his sock. He's rubbing his knee. And like, if you're going to stay down like that, man, wave to the trainers, get the official to stop the game if it's serious. And if it's not, get your ass back, man.
It was lucky to not give up a goal there, because they were definitely like this is when you start to see the momentum kind of shift a little bit towards the Orange team, and like they got some stuff going on, particularly on our side of the field, and he's just doing his own thing. And dude, I don't want it to be in my mind either, like that it's potential that he's just trying to sell out here and get out of this game in a must-win fucking game versus our one of our two biggest rivals in this entire league. So that's just really the state of things right now. Yeah. Like with the team, particularly with him, I think at this point in time, the spotlight has never been brighter on him from a negative sentiment kind of standpoint here. So it was a most curious suspect kind of situation.
Yeah. And you said, the momentum does start to shift more towards Houston, or at least the possession, but not before here in the 14th minute, where I think this was our best chance of that first half.
Yep.
John Gallagher, one of his best individual plays, at least with the ball at his feet of the season, at least one that doesn't result in a goal, right? Takes on and beats 3 Houston defenders down that left side here, and gets to the end line past that third one and puts a ball right to the feet of Gyasi Zardes. I mean, in front of him by a half a foot. Like, it's right there, right in front of net. It's a tap in. Yep. And G can't get there, but it does kind of squirt all the way through there to Buka on the backside, and Bukari puts it into the side netting. And I understand this was a tough angle, but again, it's like just the disappointments and the frustration just kind of stacking on top of one another. And if it's like that for us, it's like that times 100 for the players.
And I mean, just the whole feel of the stadium, there was just kind of this looming cloud over everything because we knew how important this game was. And to get this opportunity, I think I turned to you and I said, well, shit, that's one of the 10 best looks we've had all season at being able to score a goal here. You get this, like you have G miss it. It goes to Buka. And I expect him to make that. That just might be my expectation, but I expect him to finish that and find a way to put it back in the back of the net. But, this has just been our MO throughout the season. We cannot finish.
And especially since Leagues Cup.
Yep. We cannot put the ball in the back of the net despite the chances we're creating.
33rd minute is when you get the first caution of the match. That goes to Driussi for kicking out at Coco Carrasquilla. It was a frustration foul. If he's going to do that to somebody last night, I'm glad it was Coco, because that man was flat. Like, he took it up to another level last night. I know you despise this man and his antics, but it felt like it was not just on display for the fans to get upset and boo at and jeer Carrasquilla, but you see, especially on the replay on some of these corner kicks where he just like crumples with nothing, like the breeze hits him, and you see Brendan Hines like literally stand there, like throw his head back and like roll his eyes there in the second half at Coco. So again, like, I don't blame Seba for that, but it continues the streak of these yellow cards that are just disciplinary for himself. And like, maybe he can, if he, this is just me getting emotional, but it's like, man, if you don't want to play, just get 2 more of those and you can suspend yourself again.
Seriously.
Down the stretch here.
Seriously. He's just racking these up. And like you said, it's a huge frustration foul. He didn't even take anything too serious that like had the ref where it's like, Victor, like, you got to call that. It's like, I didn't see anything in the game or on the rewatch where it was like, okay, like, I see why you're pissed off. It's just a real negative energy hanging around over him, man. Like, it's bad. It's bad body language and everything. And like, this is just a bad look, we don't need it. We can let Joji do that.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Like, let him go do that. Not you, man. Like, that's not your job.
Yeah. And again, that negative energy, right? It's like, you're bringing it on yourself now because of what you did in the midweek. And then the way you looked this game, again, you have looked worse with your body language, right? But it's still just, it wasn't the performance, both with the results and again, that body language, his discipline, all this stuff that like said, I was using the midweek as fuel. No, it seemed to me like, no, I was using the midweek because I'm pouting and things aren't going my way. Things aren't going our way. So I'm going to kind of, respond like this. 38th minute here. Austin's got their 4th corner of the match. And Carrasquilla nearly breaks away off the clearance for a 2-on-1, and Julio takes the tactical foul there, pulls him back, gets a yellow card. I'm much more, I'm satisfied with that. I thought that was a smart foul.
The one where he doesn't actually go down.
Of
all the times he fell down, he doesn't fall down for this one.
2-hand pull of his jersey, he stays up. 41st minute, Brendan Hines plays a ball towards the top of the box. He's, right center of that penalty area, probably 10 yards out. And it one hops to Seba at the spot, and he heads it, but doesn't have nearly enough power to get past Steve Clark, and he scoops it up. And then off that throw from Clark, Julio slides in, wins the ball off Ezekiel Ponce, who was trying to turn a corner near midfield, but it looked like live that he didn't get much of that ball. And I didn't really see anything on the replay to make me think that shouldn't have been I think that could have been a red card, and maybe we'd be calling it harsh today, but it felt like, I mean, I looked back at Alex, the guy that was sitting next to him, Fudge in front of us, and we're just like that was risky.
Really playing with fire there.
The next minute, though, the next possession, you get a yellow card to Karakia for running through Driussi's back. And he's giving Victor Rivas, the head official, all kinds of. It's like, okay, man, like fucking relax.
It's ridiculous.
Driussi did take a shot there, and he lines up over there with Ring, and like Ring kind of shakes him off on this free kick, right? And so then Alex Ring ends up trying a shot himself, and it does go off the 2-man wall and out for a corner. But if we're going to shoot from right there, again, we don't have anybody on our team. The only person in club history who's made a free kick goal is Diego Fagundes. But I still think that I would rather 10 or even 7 maybe take this shot compared to Alex Ring from 25, 26 yards out. And it does not help. It didn't help our feelings in the moment or now that Alex Ring then takes the corner and gets it closer to section 125 than any of his teammates.
I really, excuse me, I really lost it with this play.
Yeah, you were upset about it.
First of all, you hit a 2-man wall on your shot. So that's how bad it was. And if it didn't hit that wall, it was going right to Steve Clark. Just to have the audacity to try to shoot this from here. Like, we don't even want you taking free kicks for shots that are closer to the 18 than this. Yeah. Like, you're just launching this. And I know that, like, you know, I guess I can understand coming from, like, you're trying to make something happen and everything like that. But, like, we had been piling on continuous chances. And I just would have liked to have a ball that goes in there, and then ultimately, like you said, like we get a corner that just goes out of bounds. So it's just a wasted fucking opportunity with 2 just horrible kicks. And I understand having a bad corner kick every now and then, just like, you know, it not going the way you want to, but to actively make the decision to take this shot was insane to me. And like to push 10 off, and shoot it.
I know that's where it started for you. You're like, did he just push Seba away from this? Like. Yeah. What do we? And again, then I was like, okay, well, he's going to play a ball, and
exactly
his teammates were going to have a set piece here.
Yeah, that was an insane decision.
Just 1 minute of stoppage in the first half, and Austin in that stoppage wins their 6th corner to end the half. That one bounces kind of out of the scrum there and towards Mikkel Dessler, who rushes it, takes a low shot that is on target. Steve Clark is there, but he spills it momentarily, and then players come together because Biru, of course, is in there, and Seba kind of poking at it after the ball was loose. And that takes us to the half 0-0. But again, like, not feeling great at the half, but also I think we were the more threatening team, even though Houston was able to take the air out of the ball for, you know, I don't know, from minute 15 really through the rest of the half.
I was not feeling good. Just because the chances had come in, we had these opportunities, and we knew how tight we were going to be anyway, because you got to win this fucking game, and it's Houston, and the frustration was palpable with the guys because you had these opportunities, these chances, you just couldn't put them home, and ultimately ends up without any balls going in the back of the net for the green team, and you know, that's not what we want.
Coming out of the half, we do get 2 changes for Austin. And again, I think that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 games that the coaching staff, to me, seems to be more willing now. And maybe it's just because we have that depth, right? You can bring a Danny or a Svatak off the bench at the half. So Julio on that yellow card comes out, Johan Valencia comes out, Danny and Svatak come in. But again, we have seen more of that willingness to make changes earlier than we're used to. But again, it's probably, as I'm talking through this here with you while we're recording, I think it's probably just because, again, we have more depth now to bring guys off the bench. So, I mean, I was happy with the changes. We said walking up the stairs at halftime, like, I need to see Danny in this game, and wouldn't mind spot talk because Julio's back there and almost, you know, we thought almost could have gotten sent off a few minutes prior to that. And, like, I think the start of the second half is very similar to the first. Like, the first 10, 15 minutes, Austin reclaims the momentum. They are the aggressors here. And like in the 56th minute, Gallagher, great cross towards the back post from that left side down there in the south end. Steve Clark comes out, tries to leap and grab it. He misses it, and Giassi puts his head right to it, and this shit is going in. And Mikael clears it off the line. I'm not sure he knew much about it. It didn't really look like he was fully looking or meaning to be there to stop that shot. seemed like right place, right time for me in that situation.
Yeah.
So again, like that was one of a couple chances here in the second half where it's like, we got to score that. Combined with, again, I think a little bit of good luck for Houston with the positioning of Mikhail. But again, my problem is after the first 10, 15 minutes, you start to lose, I think, in my opinion, a lot of that momentum and aggression.
Yeah. No, I mean, this one really hurt. Like I said, that frustration.
I started standing.
Yeah.
I thought it was in from 100 yards away.
Yep. I was like, all right, that's a goal. Like, Steve missed this entire ball. Like, G's dunking this right now. And then just out of nowhere, it's off the line. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'll give him some credit and just give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he made the right defensive play and he saved his team a goal here. But God, it just hurts, man, because like we'd been knocking on the door and you're trying to score and you get this opportunity with G and it just goes how many times has it gone right to the place where there's somebody?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it twists the knife a little bit more that we had Jassie's artist to score a header 10-1 last night. And I mean, just can't win.
Yeah.
57th minute, yellow card to Biru. Kind of looked like he stepped on Kowalczyk there a little bit. I really had no issue with that.
I don't like him either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like anybody on fucking Houston.
I mean, I like Ache.
I like McKenzie. Yeah, our son.
Of course. I thought this was soft. Biru thinks it's soft too, in my opinion. Obviously, you see him talking, but it could just be Guilherme being Guilherme.
Yeah.
But just with every passing minute here, and you don't get one of these balls behind the net, you're clenching a little more. You're getting a little tighter, And I wanted to go back to like how I felt right for the half, where I was like, shit, we should have scored. Like we really should have scored a goal. And I was feeling pretty shitty about the half, but then you see the Danny and Svatok sub, and I was like, okay, here we go. And this is what Houston does, though. They lead the league in possession. If you don't score on them, they're one of the best defensive units in the league, and they are able to take the momentum, take the air out of the ball, kind of control it and everything like that. They're very good in possession. And like, as much as shit as we talk about them and how much we dislike them and hate them, everything, I do respect their game and that they're a talented team. I said it, when we did the other pod with the Verde Pendant boys, that this was a team that I was adamant we were not going to be able to catch because they're better than us. And then over the course of this 90 minutes here, despite us being the aggressor, the better team probably won. They were able to score. Yeah. They found a way to get a goal, and we just cannot find ways to get goals ever since the end of Leagues Cup here.
61st minute, you get Owen Wolf in for Mikkel Dessler. Again, I imagine he's got an ankle injury. He was good. It seemed like right around 60 minutes, the call went down for Owen. So I think that was probably planned. You also get Latif Blessing on the Houston side for Ezekiel Ponce. And 7 minutes later, Hader Obrian comes in for Osman Bukhari.
I didn't like that.
So who do you bring him in for?
10.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it in the car ride home, and I was like, I understand that this is most likely Josh's last stand. And if you're going to go out with your guy and your guy's 10 and you're going to go down with him and go down with that ship, then okay. As long as you can live with it, that's fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you can live with that, that's fine with me. I personally would have rather had Buka out there again. You move him back to where we can get him into the kind of free space, that open space.
Yeah.
And, of course I can sit here and say that, after this game is done and you lose and everything like that. But given all the things that were going on, how Seba went down, how it looked like that, like it just seemed like that would have been the right call.
78th minute, Hader Obrian gets out on a break, one-on-one with our son, Mackenzie Gaines. And Gaines does a good job here to turn him in transition, slow him up to allow the Dynamo teammates to recover. Austin earns a corner off that breakaway. And you can see multiple Houston players doubled over, tired here, catching their breath. It's still 0-0. This is where I was feeling we can push for a winner here at the end. And they certainly do push. But off that corner, Clark was able to punch it away for an Austin throw. So we got a Gallagher long throw on the right side. Oh. That one gets touched on by Rubio. And Alex Ring is winding up for a bike that very well that may have found the back of the net, but Driussi sneaks in front of him. and I don't hate this because this is a powerful header, but he just keeps it high and it goes off the crossbar and over for a goal kick. And like, I feel like we've seen a lot of times where he flies in like that, just over his 3+ year tenure here in Austin, where he fly again, more of them towards that 2022 season. But
yeah,
we've seen him fly in and put those away so many times. And it just really felt like it's maybe not happening for us tonight after that one doesn't go.
Yep, that one was equally as painful as the G1. I think you got to just blast this ball into the ground here, like we've been told to do. Learned throughout this process that you want to get this down onto the ground. So I'm not entirely sure. I also kind of just feel like he might have lost a little lift since the MVP season. I feel like multiple times we've seen him in the air where the ball is kind of going upward, like the ball trajects off of his head a little more high than he usually has in the past. And it also could just be the fact that 2022 season was a magical year and he was absolutely on fire, out of his mind. Yeah. Incredible. But just like, fuck, man, like this, again, this has to be a goal. You got to score here.
I believe it's 12 straight league matches without a goal.
Yep. It's not.
You're not going anywhere if you're not getting that. I mean, he's what, 6th highest paid player in the league.
Yeah.
You have to have more. You have to. And it's like not just 1 or 2 more goals.
No, yeah,
right?
Absolutely not. Particularly with the way that this team is inept at scoring goals. We need these goals to come from you. And, I looked at the stats a little bit here before we jumped on and everything. And Hader's sitting there at the top of our goal scoring list, a guy we picked up in the fucking draft, the re-entry.
And none of those goals are penalties. How many? Seba has at least 1, I think 2.
Yeah. And our buddy Alex
5.
Our buddy Alex behind us had a pretty good point. Like ever since he's missed those 2 PKs, it just seems like something's been a little bit off. And obviously he's mixed in and sprinkled in some really class games, which that's who he is.
Yeah.
But there just seems to be something lingering going on, and it could be an irreparable situation with the coach now that he no longer has the band, not wanting to fight for that. Obviously you see some stuff being tied back to River Plate and all of that stuff. It's just been a really, really poor run of form for our best player as of late. And when that's the case, you're usually not winning games.
Yeah. I mean, it's like as of late, 12 games is more than a third of a season.
Yeah.
82nd minute. Houston can't convert. They're off on a little 2-on-2 breakaway here. And then Austin off on a counter of their own. Game really starting to open up a bit here in the final 10 minutes of regulation. O'Brien plays John Gallagher through, but his shot doesn't have enough power, and it rolls right to Steve Clark. And I think it looked like, hindsight's 2020, like Driussi was kind of crashing the box here late arriving run, but it did look like if you just play it across, we may have a tap in there. I don't really fault Johnny for that one because it didn't look like he had an angle to see that there was a teammate coming on that backside.
But again,
frustrating. You're in on net.
Exactly. You are in on net here. You got to score. And I think Johnny was one of the better players last night for us. I think obviously he's being asked to do a ton of different things, but this has been something that has not gone well for him ever since he's been put into a more advanced position, which is the finishing aspect of it. And again, this should be a goal. You should score a goal here. And for it to be such a poor attempt and to go right to Steve, it's beyond. I know everyone's frustrated. It's beyond frustrating that we are now at this point. You see the talent infusion, you see the level of play being elevated, and we are generating tons of more chances than we have in the past, but we are still unable to put them behind the keeper. And that's what this game boils down to. We can talk tactics, formations until the fucking cows come home. You got to score goals. You have to. You got to be special in those moments because that's what changes games. And Johnny's got to do better with that.
On the next possession, Mackenzie Gaines wins a corner for Houston, and on that corner, Bassi sends it kind of over the scrum to the center back Sviatchenko, and he heads it back towards the top of the 6-yard box where Coco Carrasquilla, bicycle kick, bounces down into the ground, past Brad Stuver, right in our face there in the north end. And with 6 minutes left in regulation, you find yourself behind 1-0. And I'm not sure I said a word between then and when this was the first time I had left my seat during live play since Leagues Cup 2023.
Damn.
I watched stoppage time from the top of the section. I just I just couldn't handle it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I sat there in silence for a long time, even after the game was over. And fortunately, buddy TJ comes down, chats it up with me a little bit and everything. But it just the moment kind of all just hit you at once. It was like, okay, well, that's the season.
Yep.
We're going out on a Coco Karaskia, the biggest loser in the league, bike kick after we've had off the post, after we've had chances to beat Steve Clark, after we've had a save off the back line. And it was just like, there it all is and everything like that. And you can put a little bow on it and just say that this was the 2024 season in a fucking nutshell.
When like the guys, again, there is time left. There's 6 minutes of stoppage, right? And then Latif Blessing goes down. He ends up coming off with an injury sub. In the 89th, though, Houston loses it at the back on a turnover by Artur. It's 4-on-3. Ring on the ball. Rubio to his right. Seba to his left. Obrian trailing. Alex plays Diego. He lays it up to Obrian, crashing the box and takes a touch instead of one-timing it here. It's saved by Clark. I thought this should have been a one-time goal. I thought Diego set him up very nicely. And again, it's not like I know we're getting on Seba, and I think rightfully so, right? But it's Seba, it's Alex, it's G, it's Buka, it's Johnny, it's Obi, it's no, and I know Obrian finished the goal on Wednesday night. So and again, he's leading us in goals. I can't say much bad about him, but again, I think he can. We've seen him do better in situations like that one. I go get a yellow card to what's that?
I go back to the LAFC goal that he scored, where it most likely should have been a one-time, and he has difficulties with that one-time kind of shot, and it should have been a one-time shot. And again, you just have to do better with it. And I've never really questioned the fight of this team. I think that they've always shown throughout the course of this season, which we knew was going to be a challenging and difficult season going into it, that they've never really quit. There's obviously been some moments and instances in games where, it wasn't at the highest level of competition for our guys, but the good fight continued for them. And it just, once again, boils down to the inability to score goals.
90th minute, yellow card to Kowalczyk for kicking the ball away. 2nd minute of stoppage, you get Bartlow and Sebas Ferreira in for Bassi and Kowalczyk. On the restart, you got Driussi kind of almost playing like a left back here. He's kind of just over the half line, but plays this long ball all the way to the right to Owen Wolf. I thought it was a great run, good timing by Wolf. Those two guys clearly connected there. And he lays it off for Alex Ring, who is wide ass open from, 8 yards out. And he sends it 10 rows into the south end. And I know from reading some of the post-game quotes in Phil West Verde All Day article that dropped this morning that Alex was very much like, we got to do better. I got to do better finishing those things, yada, yada, or those chances. But again, that was it right there. And also at this point, that's great. Then you're not as dead as you are today with 1 point and a draw, but you still, again, it was a must-win game. And when you get that Coco goal, it's like, okay, we're going to score 2 now.
Yeah, of course, the floodgates are going to open, but I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. This is what Alex has done every single time he's had an opportunity like this throughout the course of the season.
Yeah.
It has been shots launched above the net. It's been shots launched to the right of the net. Just nothing that is actually like where we need it to be. And that's just part of the reason why I was even more exasperated and just frustrated with him shooting that fucking free kick. It's like, what evidence do you have that this is what you need to do right now? And like, you get this opportunity here, and I know he wants to do better with it. Like, and I understand his limitations as a player and everything like that, but it's just like, we had so many chances last night, and every single person did not do their job with it. Like, that's your job, to score fucking goals, man. And like you talked about us getting on Seba and everything like that. I just feel like Buka's got a little bit of a pass going right now because everything's so hot on 10. Like,
sure,
he should have scored last night, in my opinion. Like, if we're going to think that first attempt is a shot, which I think it was, given the pace on that ball, and then the one that he put into the side netting, it's like, dude, like, that's $14 million between the two guys, and we're just getting, quality that's just not good enough. Like, it's just not good enough.
I also think Osman, though, has because if you look at his, not just his expected goals, but expected assists, and again, those aren't perfect fucking metrics, but he's generating more, I believe, more than half a goal or assist contribution per 90. And too much higher than that, and you're getting to a place where you're just not going to be in MLS anymore, if you're dominating more than that. But again, you got to turn those expecteds into actual goals and assists, your G plus A. But again, your teammates have to be able to finish off to get a fucking assist, which I think has been more of a struggle. And while we're talking about Osman, I don't think you're off base by saying that maybe he's getting a pass for some of the, the decision-making sometimes, right? Where I think we've talked about, especially against Toronto, where he's trying to set his teammates up on various breakaways and counterattacks, and they can't finish. So then he finds himself in another situation where the right move is to pass it to Hader Obrian for the just tap-in goal, and he tries to make something happen himself. But one thing, and again, maybe I'm reaching here. I know I can do that from time to time. But I remember when Denny Bouanga came into the league in 2022, summer transfer window, played 7 games with that team to end the year. And he struggled to score. He had 1 goal and no assists in that first little slice of a season with LA. And then we know what he's done the last 2 years. So again, that's a pretty high bar to put Buka to, but I think he can be production-wise. I think he can be 75, maybe 80% of that. I don't think that's out of the question. So I'm already looking forward, obviously, with a guy like Osman. And again, maybe that's not fair. But that's just what I was doing this morning and thinking about, because Buka, 1 goal, no assists. And that might just be where my comparison should end. But that's where I went this morning.
Well, you got the assist for LAFC. Got that one.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. The one who said better than Bouanga.
There we go. But yeah, man, it's I wanted playoff soccer this year, and that it doesn't help us right now in this moment to be thinking about how he could project out and everything like that. And I just think that we keep looking for someone to step up. And if 10 has not scored a goal in 12 fucking league matches, someone has to. And it wasn't Alex again. Now I'm looking at Buka, man, come on. And you get guys like Hot Air and Johnny giving you good stuff out of this game. And I don't expect them to be able to finish as much as I do with Buka and stuff like that. So,
sure.
I suppose I could just be being too negative and looking for someone to blame here. It's a team game. It's a collective effort. And it just has been a collective effort that is not good enough. And this team does not deserve to make the playoffs. And they're not going to.
45% possession for Austin, 18 shots to 15 in favor of Austin, 6 shots on target to 4 also in favor of Austin, 11 corners to 4 in favor of Austin. Austin created 1 big chance, 1 missed. I imagine that was the Giassi header. It could have also been the Ring shot. I think it also could have been the Driussi header. 13 of the 18 Austin shots were from inside the box, and on FotMob's model, 1.68 XG for Austin, 0.92 for Houston, but expected goals on target, 0.91 for Austin, 1.3 for Houston. And man, again, now we can kind of open this up wider view, talk about the coach, talk about some of the players here. You're in your last 8 league matches dating back to July 13th, 1 win, 5 losses, 2 draws. We were on 30 points with 12 games left. That's 1.36 points per game. That's a 46.3 point pace. And again, expected at least a slight uptick in the performances, and it went the other way. But again, I also think like I said, after the Toronto match, right, when I was looking at just a 3-game sample size of the XG totals from FotMob's model since the restart after the Leagues Cup break, right? Now we've got 2 more games tacked on top of that. And again, XG especially, I know I say this every time we bring it up, but for clarity, 1 game of XG does not always tell you the story of the game. It can be wildly inaccurate about what actually happened during the game. But again, it's to my understanding, it's designed where the larger sample you have, the more indicative it can be of how many goals that team should score, how many they should concede. And so again, this is just a 5-game sample, but this stands out to me because certainly at no other point of the season will you find these type of numbers in those XG models where over the 5 games since the League's Cup restart, right? Nashville, Vancouver, Toronto, LAFC, and Houston. Austin's XG on FOTMob's model is 8.6 goals for, 5.7 against. Actual goals in that 5-game span, Austin 4, opponents 5. So again, I don't think there's really any coaching changes that are going on here in terms of what Josh Wolf and his staff have been doing to put these guys in better spots. We're doing a lot of the same stuff I think that they were trying to do in the early parts of the season, maybe opening it up a little bit more on the defensive end, right? Combined like with the talent infusion and the desperation that has built with each passing disappointing result in this span. But again, I am very encouraged by that because those players are going to be here probably with a new coach. We're going to be here. And if you can keep that up in terms of the XG over these last 4 games to a point where you are coming out on top of your opponents to what then would be a 9-game sample, that makes me feel a lot more confident in the talent infusion that we got and the fact that we expect to see more heavy player personnel turnover as well in the offseason. But again, just scratching and clawing here for some sort of positive going forward.
I mean, this season has just been such a weird kind of mind fuck because like you have the earlier start of the season where we're not generating anything. Our XG is in the basement.
No shot. You can't get XG if you don't take fucking shots.
Yeah, and we worked our way up to 3rd place. Now you get these guys in here, you see the XG pumping up and everything like that. You see the talent level bumping up and like you see the quality of these players like Dessler, like Buka, and it just you're not getting the results as well. And like you outlined kind of that nightmare scenario. We are in it. We have definitely leaned into it.
It happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I would not be shocked or surprised if you just kind of sell out these last 3 games here. And like, there's nothing to fight for now. And I was talking with you and our buddy Mason there about the fact that, our 2 biggest, most signature wins of the season did nothing for us in regard to making the playoffs. And that makes me think that those Liga MX teams are probably even way more far behind than I initially thought because they're in such a beginning of the new season and everything like that. And for us to put a whooping on them the way that we did with both of those games, it just kind of, it's hard to look at that and then look at what's going on right now and be like, oh yeah, we faced them at their height, and everything.
Sure.
So,
well, I don't think any of us were saying it was their best night for either of those teams, right? But then again, it's like talking about the coach and I think what we've all understood, like if you are a diehard fan, right, you're into this enough where you're listening to press conferences from the GM, or at the very least, like listening to a recap of those roto pressers from us or from Phil or any of the other, right, fan media outlets or official media outlets, right? If you weren't saying, and again, I do expect Rodolfo Borrell, my best guess is as soon as they are mathematically eliminated, which I think is going to be Saturday, this coming Saturday, that either the next morning or the first business day after that, that you get that press release, right? Yep. Because if you are saying we must make playoffs and saying it twice and emphasizing the must, who are you saying that for if not the head coach?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, ultimately, the fans, right? I think and it's not just special for Austin fans. Like, fans in general deserve a better product than what we've seen here in Austin over the last 2 seasons. Because, like, expansion year, I get it, right?
Yeah.
No expectations there. And then the next year, Western Conference Finals, you exceed everyone's expectations, the underlying numbers, whatever. And that season was fantastic. And people who discount that season and the success that the team did have, I look at a little bit sideways because, again, like, you could say similar things about the negative seasons that we just experienced and make excuses here or there. But like, again, 2 straight seasons where you miss the playoffs, rebuilding or not, I have said for a while that I think this team, even during the rebuilding period where the roster was bare bones through the first 2/3, what have you, you had enough on the team. You had enough talent. You had a decently easy schedule based on what's left here in the last third of the season. You had enough to get up to 9th out of 14 teams in the West, in my opinion. And like postseason soccer, especially the wild card, is like the lowest bar you can possibly set.
Yeah.
Outside of let's not get the spoon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bottom of the barrel.
Again, even though I don't like last night, I know on Wednesday I said that I thought it was a well coached. I thought the players were set up well by the coach. I thought the subs, again, despite what the announcers wanted to have you think in that game, I thought it was a well coached match. And I don't think the coaches really, outside of that Valencia start, which left me scratching my head just a little bit. But like you said, we can defer maybe to the physios and their call in that regard. I thought it was like the coaching was fine last night. But when you're assessing the coach here to end the season, it's not a 1 game or a 2 game sample, right? And you also can't discount the first 3 seasons, which second year was great, but 3 out of 4 and 2 in a row. Again, I think it's a win, not an if. And I feel like I want, as soon as you're mathematically eliminated, I want that to come across from Roto, maybe just because that's what my personal expectation was from him saying that and how I interpreted it. But I know I'm not alone in that.
Oh, of course not. It's just not been good enough. That's what it boils down to. You missed the playoffs this year. I think what you said was spot on in regard to the fact that this team had enough to make the playoffs when there's 9 fucking teams making the playoffs in this situation. And you look at the entire body of work, the overall record, the numbers that are associated with that record in terms of the goals, how much we've been outscored, the expected goals and everything like that. And it just points to the man is going to get fired, and justifiably so. The product has not been good enough. So that's what I'm expecting as well. And I think that's what I thought when Roto said we must make the playoffs. I think that's who he was talking to, and Josh. And I thought that he extended him an opportunity here to keep his job, because it was this hot last year for him in terms of a large portion of the fan base wanting him gone, the product not being good enough. And now you're back here in the same point. Roto owed you nothing. He didn't bring you in. Like, you're not you're not his boy. You know what I mean?
And he gave him the chance. Like, when
he did,
we both thought after the Colorado loss near the end of last season that was it.
And I thought that was a pathetic run too. Yeah, I thought that was the right call, though, to give him another chance like that and to be like, look, man, I'm going to be bringing in some players here. We have to get through this difficult stretch. I'm going to give you this chance. He had his chance here, and I think that's the end of this story for Wolf in Austin.
Yeah. And man, I think no matter if you've been a little bit more patient with it, or you've been hardcore for years now, as some fans have been, just hardcore, like the coach is a huge issue. I don't think he can get it done, yada, yada. Like, I feel like it will be a breath of fresh air for almost everybody, just the general discourse, because there is so much more, as we talk about here. There's so much more than just every game, especially when one little thing goes wrong in the middle of the season, that you jump right back to the coach, right? And I'm sure that there are people like there are in every fan base, right? Roto's going to bring a new coach in, and at some point they'll lose 2 games in a row. And maybe that can be on our personal over-unders that we do at the start of next season. It's like, when do you see the first next coach out bucket post or statement or whatever from somebody? Because it will happen. But just that breath of fresh air, it just feels like it needs to be allowed to happen. And again, we think it is going to.
Yeah, and I mean, I could give a shit less if it's the fans feeling that way. If it's the players and they're feeling that way, which I think that is how where this needle is pointing at now, where there's guys who, because everyone is frustrated with this season. I think every single player is disappointed with this season, and finding where to place that blame, that throttle usually goes to the head coach. And if there's some sort of disconnect after what happened with, the rebuild, the roster construction, how this season has gone and just fallen apart here at the end of the year, which it did last year in September as well. And like, this is the most important time to be good. It was all well and good and great. And, we're having a blast and drinking happy beers, smoking happy blunts, posting yodelers that were in third place and everything on the socials. Yeah. But like, that was then. This is now. This is when it really fucking matters. And the job did not get done. And in this atmosphere, like the way that this goes in sports, professional sports, the job doesn't get done. You don't have a job anymore. Yep. So yes, I'm right there. It's a when, not if. And if that's what the players are feeling and they need to like have something where it's like, we need a change to make this right, then go for it. And like, I'm ready for Roto's guy. Like if he has his guy, he has somebody who he wants to go get. I have already placed my full trust in him to be able to go ahead and build this roster out the way he sees fit. I think we're going to see a lot of roster turnover as well. I think a lot of guys are not going to be back. I think some guys are going to be pissed about not being able to come back. And if you're going to point to the coach and be like, well, that, we got to get rid of him. We also got to get rid of some of you dudes too. Like it is what it is. The job, like I said before, like the job did not get done. And we're sitting here talking about the fact that we couldn't put a ball in the back of the net to save our fucking lives for the majority of this season. Coach can't do that for you. Like you gotta go out there and score the goals. So like, there's going to be a lot of change and turnover. I don't want to, because I'm very much and have been to see this thing through till the end. These last
not eliminated yet.
I will be here, and like we'll be all about it, doing our thing, and like I'm not going to discredit that and like let this kind of just go to the wayside or anything like that, and like look towards 2025. But this season is over. It is what it is.
Yeah. And that Josh Wolf does have another year on his contract. Can you imagine the discourse if he, made it to February?
We'd have to build another airport.
And when it comes to Seva, right? Like
I think he might be out too.
Yeah, and I agree. And I don't think I would be sad because I love Sebastian Andriossi. And I don't think there's much else to say. I do think there are significant hurdles to that. Because, the clubs that have been rumored, and again, I don't put much stock into a lot of these rumors right now because we've had River Plate wants Driussi back rumors since the week he got here in 2021.
Yeah.
So those are never going away. And I think one big hurdle with River Plate in particular is that I believe their highest paid player makes about half of what Seba does. So for us to sell him with time still left on his deal, we're getting a transfer fee back. And then you got to pay the salary that's on his contract. I don't see that for River. And so unless Seba wants to agree to a lesser salary, which why would he? Yeah. And then also again, maybe there is that significant disconnect and, the personal issues between him and Josh Wolf. And maybe Seba finds his form again if he's under a new coach next year. That could certainly be a possibility. I think I'm personally a little bit more worried that he's just coming to the backside of it. I mean, he's only 29, right? If I recall correctly, but that fall off can be fast, and you're not just seeing it with the counting stats. You see it in his his expected goals and assist numbers are, I think, almost career lows too, certainly since he's been here, and just hasn't produced anywhere near, not just DP level, but 5th, 6th highest paid player in the league. If Roto has a pot of money to use on the 3 DP slots, then do we want, again, from an optimal roster building standpoint, taking the emotion and the talent of the player somewhat out of it? Do you think we're better with Driussi and whatever the money we have left for that 3rd DP salary is? Or are we better taking that $6 million, adding it to what we have left and spending $3.5 million on 2 DPs? I don't know. Denny Bouanga's on less than $3 million. So again, I keep coming back to, one of the best players in the league there, but I think that's a reality. If you have that type of money, you see the caliber of player you can get. And Austin is not, look, man, we're not Kansas City, man. I know we're not Los Angeles or New York or Miami, but to me, I'm biased, lifelong Austinite, but I think we're kind of in that second tier in this league in terms of desirable places to play for a myriad of reasons. But I think, again, the biggest hurdle is the financial side of it, because what team is going to want to pay that salary with the way he's been playing, and not getting any younger season over season, of course. So do you have any thoughts there? Again, there's a lot of these types of conversations to have between now and the end of the season and leading in and throughout really the offseason.
I mean, it's just so easy to compartmentalize these guys and just look at them in regard to how they're performing out there on the field. But like, this has been a grind of a season, and I applauded these dudes for how they fought, particularly in the beginning of the year when we were super undermanned. We were super not talented. We were injured. We were beat up, and we were finding ways to get through this with some surprising results and then some ones that you would be coming to expect. But like, when was the last time you saw the joy for this team? You know, like when was the last time you saw that joy, that feeling where it's like, we're out here, we're doing what we love. We get paid to play the sport that we love. And like, if it's not working for him in regard to his happiness levels here in Austin and all that, it affects your play. Like, it's one thing to be like, you shut everything off and you lace them up and like the outside world kind of gets shut off. But when the noise grows this loud as it has been as of late, and people are now kind of, turning on you or just examining how you've been performing a bit more closely, the frustration really grows. And, I wouldn't want to see 10 go by any means. You know what I mean? I very much still believe that he can recapture that form that he had, particularly now that we're putting better players around him. But it had to have been really taxing on him throughout this season. The questioning of like, should he have been the captain? Losing the band, getting that red card, getting suspended, missing these PKs, having this social media kind of fallout thing and everything like that. It's been a difficult, taxing time for him, and he's a fucking human being. So, again, I'm just right there with what Roto's going to do. I think he's going to make the right business decisions in regard to who he's going to bring in and who he's going to send out. And we'll see what happens with it. But it's just been a rough year for a lot of guys. It's just been a shitty year. It's been a tough draw to go through this.
A couple quotes from the post-match presser. Coach Wolf said, "It's not like we're doing a lot of things poorly other than the finishing. The defending has been quite solid. We don't give up shots and stuff, but expected goals, again, we have a way that we go about it. And if you score goals, it gives you energy, it gives you momentum, it gives you belief. The way that we're playing is quite good with the ball, quite solid, and we have a level of flexibility because we have a little bit more quality in the group and more competition. Thus, the performances have picked up, but I can sit here and tell them to be more ruthless, be more shrewd in front of goal, be more clinical. Those are just words. I mean, when the moment arrives for these players, it's about staying calm. It's about having clarity as to what you're trying to do. Balls go in off of players all the time. A little bit of luck doesn't hurt, but I'm not hanging our hat on luck. It's the way that we play, the way that we've competed now in the last 6 or 7 games. Easily, we should have more points. We haven't done enough in front of goal. It's a big letdown. This game, again, you can defend, and the guys do, but in order to win games, we've got to score goals. It gets old. It gets old for you guys, talking to the members of the press there. It certainly gets old for me as well. But we've got to keep moving forward. And to me, like, I don't think he's wrong there. But again, it's like those guys don't put the goals in. You're the coach. Your head's going to roll for that, man. And like if you had to put yourself in a better position before this, this downturn over the last 4 games. Because I don't like, do you see anything that he's saying there that is incorrect? Right? Like they're doing okay at pretty much everything, outside of just finishing the chances that they are very much creating. And again, creating relative to what the team was doing through the first 2/3 of the season. The bar was on the fucking floor.
Yeah, but the worst in the league.
Again, it is improved. Again, they've generated, what was it, 8.6 goals to 5.7 against in terms of the expected numbers. And you're underperforming your expected goals by more than 50% here with just 4 on your 8.6. So, it's too little too late ultimately.
Yep. And that's why we knew that this season was going to be such a grind and such a battle, because it was going to be hard to give yourself a little breathing room once we got into this crunch time. You saw the schedule to end out this season, and like we knew how difficult and challenging it was going to be. And of all people who should know, if you're not getting the goals and the product out in the field, that the coach gets fired is Josh. He's one of the best players to play at MLS. Like, he's one of the top goal scorers in MLS history.
Right.
Like, he knows how this works. He knows how it gets done. I would anticipate that he's going to continue to be a professional and do his job. But, he's on the chopping block, and like, he's next up, and that's what it's going to be. And that's how this fucking business and this machine will always operate. So I don't think he's necessarily saying anything wrong. He's also not saying anything that's like, this giant type of situation where it's like, okay, well, that's really wise. It's just been a situation where this team has not been able to finish goals.
Right. When I shout out to Phil, for compiling some of those quotes over there at Verde All Day. Shout out to Laura Gallo. I know he pulled some quotes that she got from the locker room. And I just wanted to highlight, again, Osman Bukhari just seems like to be the eternal optimist. He said, we still need to work and still believe anything is possible. Again, we were joking a couple weeks ago about, he was just like, if we stay together, we can win all of the games.
Hey,
I guess we haven't been together enough.
We got a safe space for you here, Buka. Don't worry, bro. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of optimism here. So jump in.
Anything else for you on this one, A?
Fuck Houston.
Yeah.
Congrats. Let's change this up a little bit here. Let's do a little quick little DJ, change the tune here.
Yeah.
Congrats on your first points here.
Yeah.
Every now and then a little brother happens to beat a big brother. I know you guys got to celebrate. You probably had some drinks out here in Austin. I personally wouldn't have drinks in Houston. So good for you. Congratulations. I know you guys had a good time in the tweets and everything, and that was great. A lot of y'all weren't really talking too much most of the season. So
or ever.
Yeah. If you just fired those accounts up recently, another, kudos to you. Big thumbs up. I saw a bunch of Houston guys getting their pictures taken, their first ever win at Q2. Yeah. Maybe Tops will make a card for you, and you can have that to commemorate it. That'll be great for you guys. It'll be really, really good for you.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's for not being rivals, according to a lot of Houston fans that I've seen, y'all sure do talk a lot when you get your first win. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, congrats.
It might take you another 4 fucking years to get another one here. Okay, real quickie. We had this afternoon. Let's check in on.
The best keeper in the world.
So Louisville City, like we talked about on Thursday's episode, not international, but national, Damien, here on ESPN2, Louisville City visiting Detroit City FC. And it did not go the way our boy would have wanted. Damien gets the start, gives up a goal in the 17th minute. Louisville then equalizes in the 5th minute of stoppage off a PK, but 4 minutes into the second half, Louisville picks up a red. Detroit scores the winner in the 67th. I did hear from our buddy Tim, who I think had eyes on this one. I was busy burning my eyes watching Pittsburgh Steelers football. I don't know how they keep winning. 2-1 win for Detroit. On that second goal, Tim said that Damien could have probably done better. So I'm going to go look for some of those highlights here after we finish recording. But Damien still 4 saves on the day, 7 recoveries. And again, Louisville still out in first. And I guess, right, down a man for 40 minutes, 40 plus. To only give up 1 goal. I think Louisville probably did okay. Still on 62 points from their 28 matches played. Still 2 games in hand on second place Charleston Battery, who is 3 points behind them. And to Detroit's credit, Detroit is up there. They are 4th in the Eastern Conference in USL. So, these were not bums here. They probably would put 2 of the better teams in USL for an ESPN broadcast. So Louisville back in action Saturday, back at home against Memphis 901. So there's your Damien update for today.
We'll take it.
And then to close out today's episode, we have another academy update, just the U15s and U14s that we saw scores for, but U15s, they were taken on Houston Dynamo. So it was like a double derby weekend there. 1-1 for the U15s. Xavier scores off an assist from Zeke. And then the U14s, 3-2 victory. So getting it done, avenging us in the Houston matchup there. We had a goal from Toby. We had a goal from Chuka, who got a header off of a corner. Austin picked up a direct red card on the report that we got. We had a player who yelled fuck because the Houston Dynamo player fouled him first. We got our third goal from Juan, who plays right back for the U14s. Dynamo scored an open play, and then off a very questionable PK. We're not looking through Verde-colored lenses here. Very questionable PK where the Dynamo player initiated the contact, but the 14s come out on top. Good job, boys. Fuck Houston. Give me a red card, ref.
Whoa.
Oh, man. Anything else for you, E, before we shut it down here on episode 176?
Nah. Got to get some therapy juice.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will say, Austin FC 2 is in action tonight about 2 hours from now. So taking on first place, North Texas SC. We will be doing that recap on Wednesday's episode after we preview the home match coming up next Saturday against Real Salt Lake. So no last business day today, but we'll recap that match and preview the next one in the midweek. And that wraps up episode 176. We appreciate you all tuning in, sticking with us here through, again, a very, very tough weekend if you are an Austin FC fan. But like E said earlier, we will be here even after the very slim, sub 1% playoff chance that we have left. Once that goes out the window, we are still here every week, twice a week. So we'll see you on Wednesday. Try to enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We will do the same. And we'll see you back here on Wednesday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, easy. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.